environment in most situations. It is up to you. Please help me welcome John with crowd control.
Bouncing, moving around, getting thrashed. We're on these very flimsy white lawn chairs in fairly rough seas on a ferry. We're just getting back from this amazing performance of a Cirque du Soleil with the local style down in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. With it, these amazing acrobats and performers did these just mind-blowing tricks and stunts. And we're back on this, shuttled onto this ferry, and very touristy, lots of people. There's probably about 200 people on the ferry. And we're sitting all on these lawn chairs on these flat decks, and we're all sliding around, moving around with the waves. Well, they have a DJ going, and there's a pretty good beat. And a few of us start to stand up and start to dance. And we realize we are much more stable-ish while dancing than we are sitting down on these chairs, crashing into each other, sliding around on the deck. This is a good example of how you can take whatever circumstances you're in and change them to be something awesome, to be something fun. And I believe it depends on the people there to make it happen. I think in our society, oftentimes we don't have leaders that take the initiative to have the situation be from, say, a normal, like a 2, to bring it up to a 6, an 8, or a 10 in the enjoyment factor. Many people just kind of keep going by. It's our social norm to stay isolated in our own little bubble, look at our phones, look at our books in front of us, the paper, whatever it may be, or just zone out into space and not make eye contact with anybody. You are in your own space. Think of being on the subway. Everybody has their little zone of don't touch me. Wait, we're bumping into each other. We're moving, but don't touch me. I don't know how many different times you've been in a situation where somebody has taken the initiative to change that environment. Somebody has started a performance on the subway. Somebody is playing a guitar and serenading the entire train car. Somebody is changing the script. Now, that is a form of crowd control. And today I'm going to talk about some positive forms of crowd control and some negative forms of crowd control, and how it can be up to you as to what situations you encounter and what situations you create. So on this bouncing ferry, on the way out to this island, we are at the front, and I'm talking to a friend of mine who is extremely shy. Lauren is an extreme introvert. She goes and has a good time in life, but she doesn't talk to very many people and is very reserved. And her 2 kids were with us. One of them, her daughter, is extremely extroverted, loves to talk with everybody and be in the middle of it. She's an Instagram influencer, and fitness model. She is talking to everybody and having a good time. Now, her son is an extreme introvert. They're like 2 sides of a coin. He is terrified of people, terrified of talking with new folks, and terrified of making new friends. So Lauren and I are talking about this, and I'm kind of discussing some of my ideas on how, if you create inclusive groups, if you create an environment where everybody is welcome, everybody is able to contribute, and everybody is able to have a good time, then you can give the opportunity for those who may be a little bit too wild to calm down a little bit, those that are extremely mild to get a little wild, and be in a safe place to do so. So we're talking about this, and she's like, yeah, that'd be really cool to be a part of that. I'm like, well, you're kind of a part of it now with our small little group. We had about 12 people that we knew all going out to this awesome event. But on the way back, I talked with my partner, Heather, to make this happen, to bring this type of environment or this idea to life. So as we're bouncing around on the deck and we start dancing a little bit, I'm like, let's see how many people we can get dancing. So the 2 of us started the dance. Now I'm going to share a video demonstrating this to everybody else. Okay, can everybody see this video going? This is at a concert, and we have this random guy dancing. Don't know if there's any other substances involved, but he's feeling it. He's feeling in tune. He's having a good time. and going from a little while, that second person jumping into this video, that second person is the key, because one person doing one random thing, everybody can kind of be a little awkward and just observe it as a spectacle. But when a second person joins, that gives you the cues and the signals that it's okay. This is allowed in that space. This is something that is permissible and can be enjoyed. So the two of them are dancing. Now there's still kind of a spectacle, but it's not one person who is out on their own. It is two people. And that second person invites a third person because it's okay. Now there's social permission to do this. That's social permission to be weird, have very awkward dance moves, but they're feeling it and they're feeling good. They're having fun. Now, this is a really cool transformative thing, because if you are a leader, you can bring people to follow what you're trying to do, whatever that goal may be. And all of a sudden, a crowd forms. All of a sudden, you have, 15 people, 20 people, all having a very good time, enjoying this concert in a whole nother level, because one person took that risk, because one person stepped forward, and all of a sudden, we have a mob starting. We have a fun crowd dancing it away. Now, this is a prime example of the power that you, as one individual or two individuals, have on a crowd. This is crowd control in a positive light. This is a way that you can dramatically transform somebody's experience, and the experience of hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't know how much this dance party spread, but it is wild and awesome. So I encourage you to roll back into your memories for a minute. Is there a time where you were at an event or just going through life and maybe a little depressed, maybe just feeling melancholy with where you are, and somebody took that initiative and started a movement, started an experience that got you out of that mindset, that made you more present in that moment, and it enabled you to have a lot more fun? Let me think back about that. And I wonder if that memory is a stronger memory versus the rest of the everyday humdrum in life. For us on this boat, we were able to get the entire lower deck, probably 100 people. We got 90 or so of them to start dancing. We started stacking these lawn chairs on top of each other and getting them out of the way to clear dance space. We had folks in their 70s and 80s dancing with one hand on a brace, making sure they're okay, and everybody making sure that they were fine, moving around, and they were having a blast and cackling with joy. We had the crew of the boat who were definitely having a rough time earlier, laughing and partying with us and dancing it up. We had a group of people continuously going to the front of this boat and having their own little stage and doing different dance moves to different songs. It was a little low. There was an awning up front protecting you from the waves. And so for me, I was a little tall for it. So I got down on my knees and danced the YMCA on my knees in there, cracking up the whole time. We had an entire group of people combined into a communal dance party, which was awesome. People were being pretty good about masks on with COVID and all of the chaos that we've had and the lack of crowds, the lack of humanity around us. I know I went to a different headspace multiple times during this event, because this is one of the most, or the largest amounts of people I've been around in 2 years. It was weird. It was different. And we went from a somber, kind of nervous crowd wanting to not get hurt bouncing around on the boat to a group of people having an experience and loving that experience. That was cool. And I think that was really powerful. And it's a heck of a lot of fun. So the next thing I'm going to share is an example of negative crowds, negative crowd control, and the ability that certain people have to drastically change something for the worse. Now, show of hands, how many people remember the wall of moms at the Portland protests going on? Hearing about it? Encountering it all? Good friend of mine, B, she became one of the major advocates for this, and she was right in the middle of the street protests, organizing, orchestrating people, and making sure that they were safe. These peaceful protests, and 99.9% of the people attending were very, very peaceful. They created this movement of positivity as much as possible, but positivity that we're trying to hold our government responsible, our government accountable for the actions, for their own actions. And you had thousands of people mobilizing for a movement in a positive direction, met with hundreds of people organizing in a negative direction, trying to disperse and destroy this movement. Kind of a wild time. And for hundreds of days, this continued on. Many people that were medics in this, reporters and active participants in the Portland protests. I didn't go, and I kind of feel weird about not going, but I was in my own space and trying to support Heather with COVID and being the support at home rather than bring it here and hurt potential patients. So that's my reasoning behind it, but it's kind of weird. As my friends are getting tear gassed on the streets, biological weapons on US soil against US citizens for standing up for US rights, it really enlightened me more and more on the potential power that people have for crowd control. Now, if you have thousands of people all at one event, earlier we demonstrated a concert. Imagine the biggest concerts you've been to. George, you're talking about the Beatles and U2. What's the biggest concert you've been to, if you wouldn't mind? This number of people.
Well, I was at the Grateful Dead at Autzen Stadium, so that was probably about 25,000 people.
Perfect example. So 25,000 people. Now, those 25,000 people can be in terror and be covered in tear gas if you have people that are not responsible with crowd control doing a good job, or you can have them having an extremely awesome event, which I'm guessing that the Grateful Dead was. We have the capacity to keep people safe and keep people moving in the direction needed and not destroying venues, destroying property. That's the reason behind the tear gassing and assault of our citizens in protests. There are ways to do this. There are ways to be responsible with crowd control. I would encourage you, if you are ever in the situation where you have any influence on it, you have the opportunity to create a positive experience. You have the opportunity to create a negative experience, and I hope you create the positive. Now, if you are a participant in this, and one fish in the giant fish pond or fishbowl, bad analogy, but if you're one person within the crowd, one person can make a difference. One person can spark a protest into a riot, which is a bad way to go, or one person can calm that protest or calm the people that want to create a riot into creating that positive force for good. Now, social unrest is something that has been dealt with and has been a part of our lives through time. A few of the members on the call were alive in 1968 during some of the biggest protests ever on the in the history of our world, during the biggest uprisings ever. That's wild, and I've studied that year quite a bit and really enjoy some of the awesome outcomes from it, and also it's terrifying some of the negative. But with the opportunities that people took at that time, and then we had the Occupy Wall Street, then we have the different marches and protest movements that have been happening more and more in our everyday lives here. There will most likely be a time in the future where it's up to you how you decide to act. I hope you make good decisions. Now, on a non-global scale, in your everyday life, if there's an opportunity where you can be on a boat bouncing around, or you are just sitting in a subway car with people, you're on a bus, you are just in a crowd of folks, and you want to take that little bit of a step, that little bit of a risk, and be the first person to start dancing weird, the first person to start a song, the first person to create an experience, I hope you'll take it. I hope you'll take that little bit of a leap forward, that little bit of social awkwardness, and create an amazing positive experience for those around you. Because those are the experiences people remember, and those are the experiences you will not forget. Mrs. Toastmaster.
Well, thank you.